We're often told that conviction is a good thing, a sign of strength, and that changing your mind, well, that's a sign of weakness. But what if that's totally backwards? Today, we're going to dig into the big ideas from Adam Grant's Think Again and explore why the skill of rethinking might just be the most important one you can have. So, picture this. It's the late 2000s. BlackBerry isn't just a phone company, it's a cultural icon. The creator, Mike Lazaridis, was a total genius who basically put a computer in everyone's pocket. They were an absolute giant in the industry.
And then, just 5 years later, bam, their market share completely collapsed to less than 1%. The company that basically invented the smartphone era was suddenly almost gone. It was an unbelievably fast nosedive.
So what on earth happened? Did they have bad engineers? Was the founder not smart enough? Nope. The real reason for the collapse was something much, much deeper. And it's a trap that, honestly, any of us can fall into.
It really all comes down to the high price of being too certain. See, Lazaridis was brilliant, but that same unwavering belief in his own ideas, his greatest strength, well, it turned into his biggest weakness. He just couldn't bring himself to rethink.
Lazaridis was so positive that people would always want a physical keyboard that he just dismissed the iPhone's touchscreen as a toy. His conviction made him blind to how the world was changing right in front of him. As the book puts it, his struggle with rethinking literally ended up sucking the oxygen out of his company, to starving it of any ability to adapt. When our core beliefs get challenged, we tend to slip into one of three roles. We become the preacher, passionately defending our views, or we become the prosecutor, laser-focused on finding flaws in someone else's argument, or we turn into the politician, just trying to win the approval of the crowd. Sound familiar? None of these are about finding the truth. They're about winning.
And this gets way worse because of this weird quirk in our brains, the Dunning-Kruger effect. Basically, it means that the less you actually know about a topic, the more confident you are that you're an expert. It turns out a little bit of knowledge can be a really dangerous thing.
This leads people to a pretty dangerous place. Once we learn a little bit about something, our confidence can just shoot through the roof, and we get stranded on what the book calls the summit of Mount Stupid. We're so sure we have all the answers that we just stop learning, because we have no idea how much we don't know.
So how do we escape this trap? How do we get down from that dangerous summit? Well, the answer is to stop thinking like a preacher or politician and start thinking like a scientist.
Look, a scientist's main job isn't to be right, it's to get it right. They don't treat their ideas like they're sacred. They're just hypotheses waiting to be tested. In fact, they go looking for evidence that they might be wrong, because that's where the real discoveries happen. It's all about embracing doubt and just staying curious.
Let's jump back to the tech world for a second. Steve Jobs was, like Lazaridis, a guy with some very strong opinions. At first, he absolutely hated the idea of letting other people make apps for the iPhone. But his team pushed back. They showed him the data, they argued their case, and Jobs did the one thing Lazaridis couldn't. He changed his mind. And that single decision gave us the App Store, which, wow, completely transformed Apple and really the entire world.
Okay, so rethinking our own beliefs is a kind of superpower. But what about helping other people rethink theirs? Well, that leads us to a much better way to actually persuade someone.
Most of us think that winning an argument means you just bury the other person in facts and logic, prosecute their bad ideas until they give up. But the research is pretty clear. This almost never works. Attacking someone's beliefs just makes them grab a shovel and dig in even deeper.
There's a much, much more effective way, and it's called motivational interviewing. It's not about debating. It's about helping people find their own motivation to change. It's about listening, really listening, and asking genuine, open-ended questions.
Okay, check out this real-world example. It's pretty powerful. There was a mother in Quebec who was part of an anti-vaccine group, and she was absolutely terrified to vaccinate her fragile newborn son, Toby. She was just convinced it was going to hurt him.
So a healthcare worker, this guy they called a vaccine whisperer, sat down with her. But he didn't give her a lecture. He didn't throw a bunch of statistics at her or attack her fears. He just asked questions. Things like, what are you most worried about? And then he just listened. He looked for common ground, and he validated her core motivation, this fierce, powerful desire she had to protect her son. By basically holding up a mirror to her own values, he helped her see the disconnect between her beliefs and her actual goal. And she realized all on her own that getting the vaccine was the best way to keep Toby safe. In the end, she didn't just vaccinate him, she vaccinated her other kids too. And that brings us to the last, and maybe the most important, mental shift of all.
we have to completely change the way we think about what it means to be wrong.
We're basically programmed to think that being wrong is a threat to our ego, that it's a sign we failed. But a scientist, they see it completely differently. Finding out you are wrong about something just means you've discovered something new. You are now less wrong than you were a minute ago. It's not a moment for shame, it's a moment of actual progress.
There's this quote from George Bernard Shaw in the book that just nails it. Progress is impossible without change, and those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything. The ability to unlearn, to let go of old ideas, that's the real engine that drives us forward.
So I want to leave you with this one final thought. This isn't about second-guessing everything all the time. It's about choosing humility over pride and choosing curiosity over being right. So ask yourself, what is one belief you have, it could be big or small, that you might be willing to rethink today? The answer might just be the start of your next big discovery.
Subscribe now for more book summaries.